Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Neena Pandey. How are you today, Neena?
I'm doing great. Desiree, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. And I'm so honored to have you on the show. I'm excited to hear your story and have the listeners hear this as well. This is going to be tremendous. So just to share a little bit about you, Neena, for the listeners, you are a serial entrepreneur. You have launched multiple successful brands. You are a Forbes author, you are a speaker, and lately a business coach. And you are helping those of us who are considering launching a business or starting a brand, starting this entrepreneurial journey, and are maybe a little bit unsure. So I'm so looking forward to hearing all of this from you today. Would you share with us how this journey happened for you? What led you down this path?
Yeah, and first of all, I'm really happy to be on the show. It's an honor. And I would love to talk to your audience and also, build the connection with you. You are amazing. Thank you so much. So just a little bit about myself that, I grew up in India and I came to the US and then I did my master's, I did my MBA. I started my career in Silicon Valley without having any technical background. I worked my way up and I became a marketing executive in Silicon Valley, which is such a competitive and male dominated field, especially for somebody coming in without any technical experience. But a part in me was always so I worked for companies like Sun, Oracle, Citrix. I launched a completely new product in a completely new market with a company called Zyme and doing channel data management. But somewhere down the line, I always knew that people ask me, when did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? And I always tell them that as far as I can remember. So it was always my passion to do something of my own. I didn't want to spend my life building somebody else's vision, right? I was doing very well. I was climbing ladders. And you know that it's a very lucrative field, especially Silicon Valley, if you're climbing the ladders. But I was not happy because I wanted to build something of my own. And that's when I left my job. So one day I was thinking that, okay, I have been thinking about this for such a long time. And say when I am on my deathbed, if I think about what I did in my life, what would I regret the most? And I thought that, okay, not trying is something which I would regret. And I took a leap of faith. I built my first business. It was an education company. It's still there. So basically, I brought it to a point and then I have other people run it. So I'm totally not involved in the day to day. So basically, my company, it was education franchise called Clubsy. And this was fastest growing company, education franchise in America and Canada in year one. But again, I knew as you're also a serial entrepreneur, right? So I am more into building things and then having others run it and then go on to something, again, adventurous. So in that incubation mode, that's what how I call myself. So and then I went and I started my own company in home decor. So it's Indie Roots. And I was designing, manufacturing my home decor items. And I was selling it under retailers like Burlington, TJ Maxx, Spell. So, all these big retailers under my own brand name. And then my latest venture is a women's wear brand. I hope your audience would love it. It's called the String Code. And it's all about women empowerment. As all of us, all women can relate to it, right? That if we are looking, beautiful, we are feeling wonderful, then, it gives us confidence. And the next step that we take, it's going to create a ripple effect. Right. So it's really, really important. It's not about, what your skin color is, what's your body type. It's about feeling wonderful from within. And I feel that clothes have so much to do with it. And this actually idea of launching my own fashion line, it started when I was working in Silicon Valley in marketing, and I saw that, there was a lack of a high fashion wardrobe for working women. That's how this whole thing originated, although it has evolved ever since. But I really used to feel that when I was looking good, I was walking with my head held high. And if I see all the heads turning at me, I used to feel very powerful from within. And at that time, the next presentation I was going to give, I used to nail it. So that's my latest venture and very, very close to my heart. It's a brand based out of New York. And yes, you can share all that with your audience, and I'll give you a special discount code just for you. So, so your audience can go and take a look at that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Neena, for that really generous offer. I appreciate that. And I know the listeners will as well. And thank you for sharing your journey, and congratulations on the success that you've experienced with not just one, two, but three businesses that you've launched from nowhere. Just like an idea in your head has popped out and then you ran with it and made it a huge success. So congratulations on all of that. That is tremendous. And I grew up in the Silicon Valley area. I'm familiar with kind of the difficulties that women have in advancing in tech careers and, STEM and that sort of thing. So I am familiar with that. And so congratulations on the success that you had, even while you were doing that in that field. But let's talk about your entrepreneurship journey and how it can be lonely, I think, and can be challenging. And so what do you think are ways that those who are considering launching their own business can overcome some of those challenges or hurdles?
Yeah, and it's interesting. This question is very close to my heart because that was one of the biggest challenge I had. So think about, I'm a social person. I like going out. I like hanging out with people. Those, water cooler conversations, they're all very close to my heart. It just lights me up being around with people. And then I started my own business, and then I am locked in a way in my office, nobody to talk to. And more importantly, it's very scary because, there are two factors going on. One is I can't just, go for impromptu cocktail in the evening, just, and just, if I have something going on, I de-stress talking to people. First of all, that is not happening. And second, it's very scary because in my corporate life, I had teams. I would fall back to people for help, for advice. I had a team executing work, right? And of course, we are all working together, but there is a huge support system when you are working. But suddenly, when you do your own thing, it all vanishes in a jiffy, right? So it's very, and then think about it. And I always tell my people that, one thing which is constant when you're having your own business is the things are always changing, right? There will be times when you have setbacks, when you have failures, and navigating all that from that mindset, that becomes really, really intimidating. And of course, you know the statistics that 80% of businesses fail in the first 3 years. It's not because they did not have the right product or right skills or even money. They fail because people are not able to cope up with the stress that entrepreneurship brings. It's not that you create your first company and it's completely successful. I have had my failures, but I also tell, especially, my listeners and my students, that great companies are built not because they had a vision in the beginning. They were built because the founders, they had a vision, they executed that, they failed, they got back up, they pivoted, they produced another version in the market, they pivoted completely, maybe sometimes from a product line or a service line. And that's how the Amazons and Googles and all these companies are built, because the owners had the resilience to get up and do the next, pivot and do the right thing and take it forward. So for me, if I were to give people advice on how to navigate all that, few things which has helped me. I mean, I can only give advice for things which has helped me. And I would say that, having that mindset of navigating through that challenge and getting back up and not giving up, not looking at short-term disappointments, but look at the big picture. And I can say that, oh, but how do you develop that mindset? I think there, self-help tools, my meditation. I've been doing this for for the past 15, 20 years. So I think that has helped me tremendously in coping up with things, my practice. And also, if you have the leverage, if you can, it's very important to build a right support system, because surrounding yourself with mentors, peers, your own team, also family, that's very, very important. And for your listeners who are not yet, married, I would say the single most important thing if they're thinking about the entrepreneurship route that they can think about is the right person to get married to, right? Because that has such a huge impact. I mean, you are partners with your husband, Desiree, and look how that has evolved you, right? How that has changed you. So if you have somebody who is there to share your success, share your failures, that's an amazing impact on your psychology. But always remember that when you have short-term failures, when you feel that nothing is working out, just always keeping the big picture in mind. And one practical thing to enable people to do that is, which I didn't do, was to focus on mentorship. Have the right people surrounding you because they know more than you, right? I mean, of course, if you are doing things on your own, you will succeed eventually. But then the question is, would you give up even before you succeed? Would you get so frustrated? Would you run out of funds? Would you run out of mindset? How does that path look like? So those are my couple of things which I used to keep myself honest. And I have had such bad days, and I have also failed. And we can talk about that a little bit more when we get into specific ideas for your clients or what to do, what to not do. But I failed miserably when I launched my first collection. So I have 250K dollars worth of inventory in my garage, and then I completely rebranded. My first venture, it was dropshipping business, that failed. And even my first venture that succeeded, education company, that is successful. I have others managing it. But I very quickly realized that that was not something which I had wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. So that paved way for me to envision a portfolio career, which is creating things, handing it off to people, then moving on to the next thing, which also balanced my risks and gave me freedom to do what I wanted to. So every failure is an opportunity, is what I'm trying to say. And if you can think of things from that perspective, if you know that you have it in you, you are resilient. And if you don't have it in you, you will create, that you will use self-help and you will be able to, I mean, you are up for it. Then I think it's not as scary as it looks. This path is full of rewards, but I think for somebody who comes with the right mindset.
Neena, thank you so much for that. There were so many great points in there that you shared. Mindset is huge. And remembering the big picture, it's kind of like your why are you doing this thing in the first place? So that on those days when you're having struggles or challenges or something doesn't go the way you thought it was, or a huge change in the market occurs and you are like not prepared for it, understanding what the bigger picture is for why you're doing what you're doing can help you overcome those challenges. So great reminders for sure. And I love that you mentioned mentorship and how important it is to have people who maybe have been where you are and have gotten past it and can help you, kind of maneuver that path. It's huge. It makes such a difference in success, I think, if you've got people you can bounce ideas off of or can help you navigate, those challenging times. So great
Yeah.
stuff.
I always tell people to think of business entrepreneurship, and I'm sure you'll attest to that, as a block of Legos. You create a tower, and each piece, and I mean, I have so many stories. I made the blunder in trademarking. So I lost a brand name which I had for the past 7 years. So every single piece, for many people who are, going to start their own business, they may not even know what it is, right? But every piece, if you take one out, the entire tower comes tumbling down, right? So that's the best, simile which I can provide.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. The becoming a business owner, launching a business does have all those pieces that fit together. And there's a lot of things that you just don't know going into it. Trademarks, understanding how that works is a big piece of the puzzle, because then if you don't have something trademarked, it can be taken from you, as was your experience, right?
My attorney, the company that I've contracted with, they made a mistake in filing. They filed in wrong class, and a big company called Roots from Canada, they came after me, and I had to take down the brand name and Roots.
Got it. And so this was I'm sure, a big pivot. So did you come up with a new name that you could trademark and file correctly, or how did you resolve that?
So yes, I have to come up with a new name that I could use. But then, with a name, you have so many years of brand capital, SEO, and plenty of things, right? When you're changing name, it becomes a little tricky. But bottom line is that if you don't know things, and so you can't even imagine how a small thing can come back and bite you.
And so having the right people to help guide you, those mentors, again, people who've been there before, can understand what, maybe need to do to continue on the path to success. So yeah, great reminder. What
And yeah, even the right people. I mean, if your mentor has gone through a lot of things, then they can even recommend the right people because there are a lot of companies who are out there. So basically, i- would you want to do something that's tried and tested, or do you want to explore five different companies and then figure out, okay, I lost my money and time? I did that with two digital marketing agency. I wasted a lot of money. So, my life is full of stories like this, which is why I really feel that it's important to save on all the money and the time to market. You need to have some guidance.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those experiences, because you're right. These kind of pitfalls happen to everyone. And then it's a question of, can you get up and keep going? And it sounds like that's exactly what you've done.
Yeah, exactly. And that all our entrepreneurs who, if they have to make it like yourself, right? I mean, we need to do that. I mean, we need to get up. There is no other way.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about how you've said that you've had these kind of mistakes that have happened. Is there one in particular that you feel like was kind of the biggest mistake that you made that you regret? Was it the trademark issue, or was there something else that you wanted to share on that?
Yeah. So I would say that, yeah, there are a lot of mistakes which I did. I am the first one to admit all that. And so I have a marketing background. I spent 16 years in corporate running marketing teams. When I launched my first business, Clubsy, I had all everything right. So basically, they say you need to make sure that you have an audience, you need to make sure there's a strong value proposition, what's your core capabilities, and did the market segmentation. So basically, I have a huge territory here in the Bay Area. Figured everything out. What's the population? What is the number of kids who are in that age, kindergarten to 12th grade, my target audience. And even if I get 0.1% of the market, I would end up making 300, 400K per year, especially, in the beginning. And then from there on and out, you can go more and higher and higher. But then I think there are some hard facts and there are some soft things. So basically, how they say that soft skills versus things which are absolutely needed. But there's one thing that nobody tells you on how to, find your niche, how to own a business, what business to own. It's not only about numbers, it's also about your vision. So I think, there are one thing how lucrative the business is, what are the numbers, how difficult is it to hire, how difficult is it to manage. So my business, it's a very good thing is that I don't have to own a place. So all that costs, it's cut down. So my tutors, they go to people's home or schools or public places to deliver tutoring. And I took the approach of generally my franchisor, they are more into private and one, retail, basically B2C market. But I went after B2B market. So I contracted deals with Santa Clara County government, a lot of schools, school districts. So basically all my strategies were right. But then there is something called when you think of what you want to do, if you want to be an entrepreneur, what kind of business, right? Then you need to also see it from the standpoint of what do you want to be doing for the rest of your life and how that business aligns with your vision. So I'll give you an example. A person in the fitness category, right? They really want to do something fitness related and the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, opening a Pilates studio or a gym or basically physical thing, right? But then you need to really think about what are your goals? How do you see yourself? And goal not from a only from a standpoint of hard goals like numbers and everything, but then, okay, why are you, to your question, Desiree, remember you saying that what's your why? Why are you doing this? So maybe, there are some people who say that, okay, I want to travel the world with my kids. I want to show them, I want them to experience different cultures. I want to, do bonding. If that is the case, then being stuck in a business that requires you 24/7, is that going to make you happy? So money doesn't make you happy. What makes you happy is if you think about next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? What do you want to do? Why are you creating this business? And then aligning your business to make sure that goal is met. So somebody in fitness, I have a student, they basically they coach coaches. So they have an online program. There are so many ways to, even in a particular niche, there are so many ways to go to market. But you need to really think through your goals, not only from a standpoint of the money that you want to be making, but also how you want to lead your life. And there is actually a very interesting exercise that I make my students do. I recently have a student who just left her job. She's in tech as well. She's an artist. So there are 10 different things which she could do, right? So I made her take a quiz, and then she came out with great results. She's so happy. And then she has picked one particular go-to market and she is taking that route. So I think that's the mistake which I did. But again, I would not even say that it was a mistake, because that paved my path for thinking about portfolio career. Now I am getting, around 10K from that business. I have a team managing it. So it's just, another revenue stream for me. I think to answer your question on what is mistake which I did, which is not an opportunity for me, I learned from failures. I let failures be my teacher. I did not invest in any mentoring, which is why it took me longer time to become successful. I would have been able to cut short this timeline. And then also, it's one thing is reducing time to market and reducing time to success. Second thing is your mindset. If you're constantly failing, then you're thinking, oh, I'm letting go of that high pay in corporate to do this. Is this what I'm doing it for? So maybe after a couple of years down the line, you will quit. And then, then you lost your opportunity to do the next big thing in the world.
Yeah. Neena, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think that you made some tremendous points in there. Again, it's why are you doing it? And also aligning it with how you want your life to be in general is such a great thing to remember. You're starting this business. Why? What is the purpose? But also, is it going to help you fulfill what it is you want to do with your life in general? And I think that is a great question that people can be asking themselves when they're looking at what kind of business am I going to start? And is it going to support the life that I want to have? So fantastic stuff. And again, looking at failures or challenges or problems not as the end of the road, but as an opportunity to learn and grow and change or pivot or whatever you need to do to get over those hurdles, I think is a great, great reminder. We're all going to be faced with those challenges, right? In some form or fashion. And if we just let it be the end of whatever it is that we're choosing to do, we're not really learning. We're not growing, right?
Yeah. And I think you would agree that even now, this happens to me also. There are days when, I can't get up. I'm so depressed. But then, even after going through all that, it's not just teaching people, it's living it ourselves as well. Right? So it's a constant struggle, I would say.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because to think that every day we wake up and jump out of bed and we're so excited. Yes, there are some days when it's like that. But then there are other days when we're just like everybody else, dreading having to get up and face the facts of the situation or whatever it is that we're working on, right? We all have those ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great, podcast like yours. And, we have built, it's such an important thing to have community. And I'm coming back to, all the tools that your listeners have. it's just amazing how women can support and lift each other, right? So with my brand String Code, I also launched a charity called It's Okay Movement. And what it means is that, women supporting women, it's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be anorexic. It's okay to be overweight. We all, and I think these, you were asking about the tools. I think these kind of platforms and we helping each other is also an amazing way to just, overcome all the hurdles, which is why I would ask your listeners to just be connected with me, whether or not you're working with me. I think I'll see you in my feeds, you'll see me in my feed. It's just an amazing way to just, lift each other up.
Yes, absolutely. And I will have you share how the listeners can find you as we get closer to the end, because I for sure want them to be able to do that. Because you're right. You're 1,000% right. We need community. We need each other. We need that support that we can provide for each other when one of us is not, feeling so great. It's like we've got our support staff, if you will, who are just like, I believe in you. I know you can do this. And what a difference that can make to our attitudes about the situation that we're facing when we know we're not alone.
Exactly, absolutely. And we are surrounded by like minded people, right? People who are struggling with the same thing that we are struggling with. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. So then let's talk about something that I think you find to be important, and that's personal branding. And so, why is personal branding important and how can it impact your success?
Yeah, gone are the days that brands used to be on a pedestal. I mean, if you think about one of the older brand, more legacy brands, we may not even know who the owner is, right? And I remember when I was growing up, there were all these big brands and you had no clue who was behind those brands. But with, with the information age and with, all the social media, so I think we are living in a very different age, right? Brands are no longer on pedestal and people don't buy products. People buy stories. People buy emotions. People invest in what they feel motivated for, right? It's not your product may or may not be as good as somebody else's product. But, just think for a second that are all the successful products out there, are they successful only because they're amazing products? Right? There could be some way better products, but they're not successful. I think people are very conscious of their values, of what they support, what the brand stands for, and they want to the brands to have the same. So basically, they want to buy products from brand that has similar belief and value system that they have. So I think in these days, this also presents tremendous opportunity for brands to come along, owners to come along and talk about what they believe in, their struggles, and connect with the audience that way. I would say that now in this age and time, even if you have a great product, if you don't share, if you don't have stories, if you don't share your brand values, if you don't, and it's not only about sharing all the good things about the brand. Sharing my tip would be to also share your failures, to also share something that didn't work, because they want your people, they want to see you as a human being. They don't want to see you as a god who always does everything right. And if you take, say, if you did something wrong, rather than hiding it, rather than not talking about it, only focusing on positives, if you come out and take ownership and if you correct that, then people are going to love it. I would just recommend, I have few students, they have their own beauty, fitness, all the small chiropractic business. It's really, really important for you to come out and talk about yourself. Be very honest and genuine. And people don't even want all those heavily produced reels on Instagram and so on. Just be who you are, be very natural, and just be authentic.
Yeah, great stuff, Nina. Thank you for sharing that. I think that people want to connect to other people. And when you come authentically with your stories, the struggles that you've had, the successes that you've had, people connect with that because then they go, like, they're just like me.
That
They have the same challenges and struggles as I have. And that connection, this product that they have may or may not be the best, as you just shared, but people want to connect with the brand in a way that's real and authentic. So yeah, I think that's great. So for entrepreneurs who are starting this journey and they're thinking about how do they launch their product or their service or whatever, do you have any suggestions on how they can begin authentically sharing the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it starts with, I don't want to intimidate people because, that it's talking about the entire marketing plan and so on. But then it's really, really important. And if I were to put this into simpler terms, it's really important to start thinking about your customers, what they want, and what you can offer them from the beginning. So, for example, so there are different personas, and you could have more than one persona, right? So, for my fashion brand, for example, I started off with one persona is, someone who is in Silicon Valley and who has similar background as me, and she is an immigrant. She has made a career for herself, and she has gone through struggles in life and so on, and now she believes in XYZ. She has kids or not. So basically, creating that customer persona down to the last level. How many kids, where do they spend time, and what do they believe in? And the piece that I'm talking about, their value system, their background, where do they choose to spend their time, where do they choose to do shopping, all this rolls into their brand preference, right? And brand preference could be across brands, right? So, for example, if they want to buy from brands who have similar values, then whether they're buying a toothpaste or they're buying a dress, you have to get into their brains. And for that, creating the right customer persona is really, really important. Because even if you have the best product, if you are reaching out to the wrong people, then you will not see any success. So that is, building customer persona. And also say, if you have the right product, if you even have the right persona, then if you don't reach out to them, say if I get 2 minutes of your time that you are ready to listen to what I have to offer, but if I don't talk about my product right, if I don't have the right messaging, then you will immediately lose all interest, and then you may not even come back to look at my product for a long time because the market is oversaturated. So for people who are just trying to think about what to do, there is one thing that I recommend is, I mean, there are multiple paths. You can become an online influencer. These days, people are going a lot after, becoming an influencer and doing affiliate. That those are all very good business model. But I will tell you that the success rate for that is lower as compared to if you build a real product. And I can share all the statistics. They can follow me on Instagram. I do that. But, you know, first of all, think about a product that solves real customer problems. How would you know of a customer problem? By building customer profile, by building persona. It generally stems from a problem which they see in their own life, like how I came up with my apparel brand. But then solve a real problem. Try to solve a real problem is my advice, and build a strong brand, not a product. So, you were asking how they can share stories. So, say if it was somebody like me who was, doing a women's wear brand, then how do I pick color? I launched my brand during COVID, and it was a nightmare because I was getting production made in India, and I had the teams on ground, and they would WhatsApp me or show me, hey, this thing came from dyeing, but it's not the right color. Oh my God, what can I do sitting here? But I have to walk them through what they could be doing. And, so there are so many small little problems that you can't even imagine. Your viewers can't even imagine what an entrepreneur goes through when they create that dress which you are wearing, right? And how many hurdles. So just share that. It will be a fun content. Your people will know. And by the time you launch your brand, your people have already seen your journey. So think about why they would not buy your product if they really need it, right?
Yeah, Neena, those are fantastic suggestions and tips in there. Building your customer persona. I mean, that and also solving a problem. But the two biggest things that you absolutely need to do when you're starting a business, you need to know who your customer is going to be and what problem they're having that you can solve. So great suggestions in there for the listeners for sure. And I mean, again, understanding how branding is so important and not just talking about branding of the product, but you as the face of the brand as well is so important. So thank you for sharing that. It's good stuff. I want to ask you, why is it that women's empowerment is such a big part of your life? Why it's so important to you?
Yeah, and that's a very sensitive question for me because it's really all my where I people ask me why you do what you do, and I think a big part of that is to empower people because of my own background. And I think I found a path now with this coaching consulting that people who want to create something of their own and they don't know how to. So that's the reason I moved on to this. But I grew up in India, and I grew up in a small town in India, and my father, he is a completely self-made man, and we were three sisters. And back during that time in India, and I'm the youngest of three sisters, back in those days when in India it was okay for women to not work. So basically, a lot of my friends, they were, they were thinking about becoming a housewife, so to say. But my parents, they always, and generally at the time, parents used to save up for the daughter's wedding because for a daughter, they would have to spend more than a son's. But my parents, they did not think about our wedding. All their life saving, they invested it in our education. And they always wanted us to be self made, to work, and to be on our own foot, not be dependent on anybody else. And that's because they didn't want, I mean, there are so many things going on against women. They did not want anyone to take advantage of us. They wanted us to be self-sufficient. And although there's an incident which lies very close to my heart that, at the time in India, gold is considered, a form of investment. And generally people use that for their kids' weddings and so on. And there was a theft in my house and my mom lost all her gold. And my dad, it was, it still brings chills to me. And my mom, of course, we were very distressed. But my dad said, okay, it's just a material thing, that we have lost. I'm still there. We are still here. We can work. So, that particular instance stood out because, then I believe in myself, even if I didn't have anything, but I believe in the power in me to transform my life. And then I moved on. I did my MBA and I moved on to tech. So I have navigated industries where women have often been the minority, as you also mentioned, right? Whether in tech, entrepreneurship, or even luxury fashion. I mean, UVC, if you go and work, I have worked in fashion. It's not a pretty industry to work in, especially, back in those days. So I have seen firsthand the biases, challenges, and roadblocks women face when they're trying to build something of their own, how people judge them. So I'll just give you a quick example that I love to dress up well, but then in marketing, sometimes people think that, okay, you know what, she's all into fashion. Maybe she doesn't have it in her. So basically, for me, it's extremely important. It's women empowerment is about empowering women, about encouraging women, giving them all the tools, strategies, and mindset to succeed. So nobody could judge them and they could live their life to their fullest. I'm sorry, a long-winded reply, but it's really, really important for me.
Yeah, absolutely, Nina. And you can hear that really come through and sharing that with us, how important it is to empower women to be successful in whatever way they want to be. And, helping them find the tools and strategies within themselves and in their environment to be successful. Absolutely. And it speaks to my heart as well. I 100% agree with you that I was raised the same way, to be self-sufficient, not have to depend on anybody, be able to, create the life that I wanted. So I'm right there with you. And I'm sure there's a lot of the listeners who have experienced some of that as well. And we have, I think, been underserved and challenged in many ways for eons. And so, if we can help each other build our successes in whatever way, encouraging and empowering women, I think it's tremendous. So bravo for what you're doing. And, thank you. So, Neena, I do want to talk a little bit about the business coaching that you're doing. And I want you to share with the listeners what it is that you're doing, how you're helping people. And that way, if they have any questions, they want to reach out to you, they can do that.
Yeah, and this stems from the fact that when I was doing my MBA, and then even in the early part of my life, I always wanted to go back to my alma mater. I'm from Santa Clara University and teach there. But with now all the new ways to basically empower people, all the digital tools, so I thought that this is the perfect way for me to help people who are like how I was 8 years ago, because I made a mistake. I just ventured into entrepreneurship. Yes, I thought that, okay, I have 16 years of marketing experience. I have ran marketing teams. I have introduced new product, new categories, brought revenue for the company. Yes, I know it all. But no, when you are doing your own business, things are so different that you have to unlearn everything. You have to adapt to the market. And that's one area, marketing, right? So you have to work on every single area, so creating your offer, how to market it, how to do sales, and then every little thing, right? So that's where I help people who want to either make a move from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. It's very scary to leave your full-time job as well. So I help people start that as a side hustle. And then when you take it to a particular level and then you feel that you can replace your full-time income, then go into it full-time. I won't want people to just stress about how to pay the bills every single day. I have a course, I have a 3-month long program where I go through, I handhold people, I walk them through everything, even if they don't know their niche yet. So from the inception to to basically launching in the market. And there are various combinations, like people can opt for some mentorship if they don't want to go through the full program, because my main aim is not to sell my program, is to help people in whatever they are doing. So I have different modules as well where I offer my mentorship. I really love to see people do their own thing, create a life that they always want, and be successful in it. Because believe it or not, work is not a part of our life. These days, work is our life, right? So if you're not happy with what you're doing, then that thing is going to manifest in all other areas in your life. How you're going to behave with your kids. When I'm depressed, then I may just snap at my kids. It's just so many areas which get affected if you're not happy with the work. So my goal is to make sure that whatever people are doing, they're successful, they're happy.
That sounds amazing, Neena. And I will for sure include details so that the listeners can find you to explore that with you. And it sounds like you've got options for just about everybody. Somebody who wants that absolute hand holding through the whole process, or somebody that just needs a little bit of, mentorship and communication to bounce ideas. So it sounds really like an amazing opportunity for people. Good stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay, Neena, before we close out, is there any last words that you'd like to share with us? Something that you think that the person who's listening really needs to know? And then is there any books or podcasts that you want to suggest for the listeners to check out?
So one thing, if your listeners were to get one takeaway, that would be is, if you are thinking about creating your own business, about entrepreneurship, then the only constant in your journey is how well you pivot. So if you face early rejections, if you face challenges, if you face failures, just think of that as a stepping stone. It's very scary. I live in Silicon Valley. It's such an expensive place to live in. So it's not that you would be forever looking at the failures and thinking, well, there is something out there. You have to pay your bills also. That's why the entire strategy and the entire plan comes into play. But then if you did not get what you sought out to do, then don't get disheartened. That maybe universe may be paving a much better path for you. And Desiree, I can not tell you how many times that I have felt that thing come alive. Because if you are so afraid to, for example, even with your job, I have a student who was doing this as a part-time thing, side hustle, and she was working with me, and then she lost her job. And she told me, I would never have had the courage to leave it, but this is where my heart lies. So if you don't have the heart to do something and something happens, then maybe universe is paving a path for you. And you asked me about books. I am a marketer, and it's a whole profile, and my coaching is about imparting skills. But I would say that for people who want to be an entrepreneur, there is a book which I recommend, which is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. So it's a must read for people who are trying to, find their ways if entrepreneurship is a good option for them. Because I really feel that if people don't have the right mindset, the right expectations, then they will not succeed in business. So I think that is the first book to prepare yourself for what lies ahead in entrepreneurship. I really love this book. And even now, I go back and I read excerpts from this book. And I always look for self help tools and books and podcasts and even, online meditation. And recently, I'm doing hypnotism as a way to manifest. So I'm very intrigued and I'm learning that. I'm also doing it on people and trying to, hypnotize people to succeed in life. So anything, I'm willing to do anything that makes me a better, a more successful person, and anything to empower others. I would take that. I digressed a little from your question, but I wanted to say that because, these things really intrigue me.
Yeah. Well, that's a great book suggestion. Thank you for that. And I think you're right. I think anytime that we can find avenues that help us to improve our mindset, help us change behaviors that maybe aren't serving us with meditation or with hypnotherapy or whatever the case may be, I think it serves to help us become better versions of ourselves. And so I agree with you. I think it's just an opportunity. It may or may not be for you, but sometimes it's just worth trying, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you try and if you don't do it, that's fine, but at least you tried.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a yardstick by which I also measure my life. That if I tried and if I didn't get it, then I mean, I don't feel bad about it. But if I didn't try, because that's the only thing in my hands, right? So I just always evaluate things by how much did you try for it? And if I did my best, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great stuff, Neena. You're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any podcasts that you'd like to suggest for the listeners? And then if you would share how they can find you, what social media sites, do you have a website you'd like to share? They want to ask you questions, maybe join your coaching program. How would they do that?
Yeah. So if people want to find me, first of all, I want to tell you that, I would love to, whether or not you're working with me, I would love to be in your feed, for you to be in my feed, because, I feel that this community is so important, even for me, for my own self, how well I do in my business ventures. I need that support system. So people can go to my website. It's neenapandey.com. And I'm very active on LinkedIn, Instagram. So you'll find links to LinkedIn is, my first and last name, Neena Pandey, and Instagram is I am Neena Pandey. So I would love for you to follow me. I will follow you. And then you'll also find a list of the podcasts I've been on. And I try to keep it very, very skill oriented too. So I have some podcast where I talk about marketing and then how some practical tools and tips and advice, which I feel are so important. People may know everything, but they may be missing a small picture. So I would love for you to, get connected to me and then we can start sharing insights. And for your listeners, if you are contemplating whether entrepreneurship is a good fit for you, what to do, or if you have an idea in mind, or even if you have your own business, I'm offering a half-hour strategy session with your audience. So feel free to go and book a session with me. Just mention your podcast. And also for my brand String Code, it's called thestringcode.com. And I'll have my people do a offer code just for your audience, Desiree 20, so 20% off on their purchase. Let me know how you find my clothes. I'm very passionate about that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Neena. I will include all the details in the show notes so the listeners can easily find your website, you on LinkedIn and Instagram, and then, of course, those codes as well. And thank you so much for that generous coupon code for the listeners. I so appreciate that. And Neena, again, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and this information with us. It has been wonderful, and I've so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was amazing for me to come out and talk about everything so personal. And it's just a good way for me to connect with people, you, your audience. So feel free to reach out to me. Anyone can send me a DM or reach out to me. happy to be a part of your community, Desiree. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch with
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Neena. We'll talk more soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.